Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 138 of Two Amazon Sellers and a Microphone, brought to you by Solozo. And today, Chris and I are very excited to have on with us McClain Warren. How's it going, McClain?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm good. I was
tell the people, Dustin. Tell the people.
I'll be honest. I was telling you before the show. We had a little surprise party for my wife over the weekend, so I'm actually hurting a little bit, but it's all good. So excited to be talking to you, though, and excited to be talking about our topic about finding your brand's voice. You're the expert, so we can't wait to dive into all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like I should be drinking now since,
it does kind of feel like that, doesn't it?
I know. Keep it going. Keep the party going, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It was actually a lot of fun. So we did all kinds of fun stuff. Had a bunch of people in town. Was nice. So anyway, let's talk about you. Before we dive into our topic, anybody who's listening or watching right now that doesn't know you, why don't you give us a little background? How did you get started? How did you get into this Amazon space or e-commerce space? And then sort of what you're up to now.
Yeah, I mean, I started as a stripper originally.
Nice. I love it. I was gonna be like, yeah, let's go.
Good segue.
It was so funny because in Prosper, like so many people, because like the typical conversations, everyone's like, it's like the same conversation over and over again. And like
right.
By the end of it, you're just like, I just feel like messing with people. So like some guys like talking to me, he's like, so what's your background? What do you do? And I'm like, well, I used to be a stripper. And I feel like he found it hysterical. So I'm like, I'm going to just start using that now. I feel like it's more riveting. But in all seriousness, I have always loved writing, like since I was really little. I actually had a poem published in a pretty big book when I don't even know what age I was. Graduated with a bachelor's in communications and marketing. Didn't really do a whole lot with that in my 20s. I was kind of like the wild child that traveled a lot and was living in different, like I was like kind of like a ski bum. I would live in like, Park City, Utah, Colorado, Portland, working as in the service industry. But I was doing side gigs, writing, a lot of freelance writing. So that always kind of stuck with me. And then fast forward to my 30s, I really started in this industry as a copywriter, a listing optimizer. Had no idea anything. I barely had even purchased anything on Amazon, to be totally honest with you. So I don't know what he was thinking hiring me, but he did, and just kind of worked my way up the corporate ladder, ended up running the writing department and keyword research team for that big company. And then, fast forward a little bit later, I just started my own copywriting company called The Right Buzz. And essentially, I'm focused on doing content from blogs and web content to listing optimizations, really anything you need in terms of writing. I also do the marketing and content for an inspection company called Mobley.
Yes.
We had Mobley on.
Mobley. Oh, yeah. We had them on the podcast. Great.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh, yeah. Great company.
Yeah.
So you're working in all areas of content for people. You're helping with, like you mentioned, blogs, websites, their product listings.
Yeah.
A little bit. Is it mostly Amazon sellers, or all over?
What's funny is somehow and it was completely unintentional, I somehow got in the niche of actually writing for most of I shouldn't say most, but a large portion of the large Amazon marketers, companies, software companies, stuff like that. So I think with my background, because I had a strong background in understanding Amazon, the ins and outs of Amazon as a whole, and then combined with my ability to write really well, I think it's a very hard niche to be in. So it actually has a really high need in this industry. And so, I write for a lot of the top companies within the industry. So it's been fun. It's really been an amazing experience.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm excited to dive into a little bit more of this as well. But and Chris are in the process of this right now. We're actually writing a listing for a product, and it's such an art form to get the concept across, the story across, hit on the emotion of a product. I feel like there's so much that goes into really doing it really well. I think we know a lot of the aspects, but people that do it all the time and do it really well, they can just kill it with really good copy on a listing, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's contingent on how well the actual seller or company understands their brand. One of the things that always kind of intrigues / amazes me, I don't know if that's really the right words, but you come across, whether it's someone that owns a large company or a first-time seller, it's kind of across the spectrum. But what's interesting is that a lot of them, they know their packaging, they know their designs, they know the keywords to hit, they know a lot about their company. But when I actually say to them, okay, but what's your brand voice? Like, what's the personality you're trying to convey? It's really amazing how many people just kind of are like, I don't know. I don't know. And it's a really crucial element when it comes to building your brand and building a repertoire that goes along all omni-channel, omni-channel marketing. Because if you don't have a brand voice, then you're not going to really understand how to properly convey yourself to a person. Because at the end of the day, people relate to other people. They don't relate to products. It's not like they're like, oh, this amazing cup I have, like I'm really, emotionally attached to it. No, they're emotionally attached to the experience that it provides. And they're emotionally attached to the company because the company propositions themselves in some way or positions themselves in a way that makes the people really attached to that company and be loyal to it. You can take something like Nike and how, people know them immediately. They know they're loyal to the brand. They're loyal to the voice. They're loyal to the, just do it. Just do it isn't something that, it says like, it's not for like, just buy these shoes. Just do it is more for just enjoy your life. Just do the sports, just do the activities, just, do it in general. And that branding, that voice, that marketing allows people to really, whether it's subconscious or not, to be hyped up about it and to really think, hey, if I buy these shoes, my life is going to improve. I'm going to be able to conquer all the things that, the company suggests I can.
And you can even see that like when you go to the grocery store. This is just a current topic on my mind. My wife and I went to the grocery store. It's the same item, but like it's the store's brand versus like the retail high-end brand. But same product. Yeah. And it's like 50 cents or a dollar cheaper. And just like why we gotta get this one? I'm like, well, it's the same exact thing. It's just $1 cheaper. Like, why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Like that. That's where you got to kind of compete with, because Amazon does the same thing with Amazon Basics. Like when you launch products, they're gonna find out your product they're launching. They're gonna create their own. I don't know if you ever remember this one, but there's I think it was a notepad or a backpack that Amazon Basics knocked off. Like I'm forgetting the name. But anyway, the creator of the original backpack made like a YouTube video making fun of Amazon Basics and and it showed like Amazon Basics product researchers and had like the googly eyes.
Yeah.
And so that's
awesome.
That's kind of thing there. But making a brand is a lot of fun. Like, obviously come up with brand, pick out the colors, logos, but it's really hard to like figure out who you're talking to. And like who's your voice. What are some steps that you see there? Like what do you suggest there for people? Like how do you find your voice?
A lot of it's contingent on what you're trying to sell and what you're trying to accomplish, and obviously who your niche audience is. What I find interesting is that, and like problematic to some degree, is that especially within the niche I'm in, where everyone that hires me for the most part are, you know, Amazon companies that want to discuss things happening in the Amazon community, whether it's PPC, whether it's restock limitations, stuff like that. And it's all really good information and very valuable and stuff people want to read, but there's no like umph to it. You know, you read all these blogs from all these companies and they all sound the exact same. There's nothing that really makes people, in my personal opinion, makes people connect with it. It's just informative. And that's fine. I mean, obviously, most people are going to go read, you know, these blogs or articles because they're trying to absorb knowledge. But if you start off the gate by just sounding very technical and you're not doing anything to really grab your audience's attention and make them be able to relate to it, you're very likely to leave that person disinterested. And they often won't read past the first few lines because, especially nowadays with technology and social media inundating us with videos and images and content constantly, you don't have much time to really capture someone's attention, like to really be able to make them like stop and be like, oh, I want to read this more. That's a really hard thing to do. So one of the things I look at is, yeah, you know, whenever I talk to most companies, their first thing is like, oh, I want to sound professional. And it's like, well, duh.
Yeah.
But do you? Right.
Like, I get that. Like, you're obviously, you know, position yourself as an expert in the field in one way or the other. So I understand it, trying to sound professional, but like, have some personality behind it. There's nothing wrong with having something that makes you stand out. And I could be in the minority of this, but I don't believe in playing stuff on the, I don't believe in being super conservative with how I brand. I don't believe on being on the safe side of things. I think that if you're going to build a brand and you're going to grab people's attention, there's nothing wrong with using shock value or humor or personality to really get people to connect with it. I actually think using humor is one of the best methods you could use to really get people to connect with your product. In fact, I actually did a whole segment on Branded by Women last year about the psychology of humor and how it actually creates more neuropath waves to understand. Like, sorry, I'm not really explaining this very well. This was like a year ago, but essentially, when it comes to memory and our ability to remember stuff, we automatically, as humans, like are more likely to remember something that's funny as opposed to things that are nice or cheesy or sweet or sad. It's just in our nature to do that. And so if you're trying to build a brand that is memorable, that people can actually recognize, that people sit around and talk about that ad at a bar somewhere. I mean, think about how many times you talk about an ad. It doesn't happen very often, but the times you're going to talk about an ad or something you read is more than likely going to be something funny, right? Because that's what sticks to you and that's what other people can relate to.
Yeah, that's just
such a good point.
The video is Peak Design in Amazon Basics. You know, let's look it up. That's the company. But to your humor point, they got sick and tired of Amazon knocking them off. Rather than just sit on the sidelines and compete on price,
right?
They told the story of what Amazon Basics is. We made a product, and then Amazon saw it was doing really well. So Amazon came in and said, we can do the same thing and just lower the price. But what the Amazon Basic is missing is Peak Design has their own mission. Like they're doing something with the sales. They're doing something for a greater community. Like that was funny. And so they made this video. And now people, I'm sure it helped their brand out. I mean, everybody's we're talking about it now. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think people are more likely, is like in this particular case that you're mentioning, Chris, I think that people are more likely to want to spend the extra money on it because they can see what they're saying, they hear them and they're funny. And they recognize that this isn't just a product, this is an entire persona that they've created. And at the end of the day, the persona wins over the product almost every time.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. And I like what you're talking about humor. We were just talking the other day with Brian Johnson, and he was talking a lot about.
Not funny at all.
Yeah, but it brought but it brought up a good point. He was talking about where basically zig when everybody else is zagging, like on your, and I just do if you're, and you'll stand out. So if something's funny, that stands out in a whole sea of like technical type jargon. And it's another way to do that. So let's start at the beginning. I'm personally in this stage. I'm trying to launch a whole brand new brand. This is something I want to do for this upcoming month. That's a goal. So I'm just in product research right now, just for this to find the right avenue for this brand. But let's say in this stage I'm in right now, is this when I should start planning like my voice of this brand? Because everything is going to come off of that, like what the website looks like, what the packaging looks like. So I need to start developing what my concept is for the brand's voice now. Is that what you'd recommend?
Dustin, did you invite me on here to get free consulting advice?
Yes, that's what we always do on this podcast.
Yeah, that's why we run this whole
personal
broadcast.
Questions. Yes.
Yeah. And we block.
He's like, say I'm starting a new company.
Pretend. The other 1,000 questions I have right here for you to continue the consultation. Yeah. Yes. So I'm getting the consultation. Do you start right at the beginning?
So yeah, I personally don't think that it's really, I don't think it is even possible to start a website and to start marketing and to start a listing optimization till you've established that voice. I think it's fundamentally the first thing that any company should figure out, even before you do the text that you want to use and the logo you want to use, all that stuff. I think until you've established, like, this is how we're going to present ourselves to the world, and we are going to create a whole personality as if the brand is a person, so that people can actually feel like they're relating to someone instead of to something, then you can use that foundation and really make some amazing content for your website, for your, marketing, for your Facebook, for all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And having it cohesive. No, I was just saying, having it cohesive is so important. I mean, Chris and I see this all the time when we talk to sellers, and their website has a totally different look than like their product looks. And even within their product segmentation, you're getting sort of a different voice on different products. And I would imagine having a cohesive makes everything so much better, especially for the customer experience.
Exactly. I mean, we spend so much time trying to figure out how, again, like the product is going to look and how the packaging is going to look and, all these details. But like, again, if you're not establishing how you're going to present yourself to your audience, it's really kind of null and void, because the last thing you want to do is give your customers a mixed feeling about the message you're trying to portray or how you're trying to brand your company. It's really important to stay on top of it. And that really circles back to the fact that you need, the whole point in all of this, unless you're doing like a Me Too product, the entire point of having a brand and trying to scale it and make it successful is that you want it to be recognized. You want people to see a color or see a logo and not even have your company name on it. You want them to be able to see that Nike sign, that little check mark, and they immediately associate that one small thing with your company, and they associate it with a whole core concept.
I got two questions.
Yeah, go for it, Chris.
Can a brand's message be to more than just one, like, avatar, like one voice, or should they focusing on one voice? And then how does a brand find their voice? Like who do they, how do they find out who their current audience is? Like, what do you do? Do you send out surveys? Do you look at the targeting that you're on? It's like, how do you do all that? So one, can you have more than one? And two, how do you communicate with that?
I think if you're starting off, I would not recommend doing more than one voice or persona. I think that as you build your company and maybe as you add more products and stuff, I think, you can establish your authority in different niches and try to kind of expand to a larger audience. And in that case, you might be able to kind of shift gears and, try to bring in a larger audience. But as you would do, hopefully you're doing research on, supply and demand. You're figuring out who your audience is. You're figuring out who will buy your product. Well, a really huge part of that, a really huge thing is that you understand how to relate to your customers. Like if you don't have the ability to understand their background, their beliefs, their morals, are they even funny people? Like, will they understand if I do let's say we decide to do humor, like obviously there's a whole spectrum of different kind of humors you can use, you can do slapstick funny, you can do like wholesome funny. I personally am really weird, so I like really dark, sarcastic humor. So, like everyone has, their own thing. And yeah, you have to use some trepidation with that, because the last thing you want to do is turn away some of your audience because you decided to be like, let's say, you're trying to be a little bit more on the dark, vulgar side. Well, that might work for some people, but you might push away other people. And that's okay sometimes. Sometimes it's okay to say, hey, like we're not for everyone. We're not trying to cater to everyone. Like it's okay if our niche is smaller because we're trying to make a more impactful voice, I guess you would say. That's okay. And that works for a lot of companies. But if you're trying to widen your horizons a little bit, then you might want to try to figure out, well, if I'm going to use this type of humor, is it going to be accepted and understood by my niche audience?
So give an example of like how you define your voice. Like if it's going to be written down on a paper, like this is our brand's voice, is it just an adjective like funny or something like that, or is it like a mission statement, or what does that whole how do you define the voice? What does that look like?
I think you should kind of approach it like you're filling out a dating profile. Just pretend like you're trying to you're putting yourself out there, you're going online, you're going to talk about yourself, and you're trying to attract a certain kind of woman, or you're trying to attract a certain kind of man. So you're going to present yourself and explain who you are in the way you want to be seen. Because again, if you look at your brand as a person, it's way easier to explain what those characteristics are and what kind of, angle they are. Like I have some clients that they want to come across as being super trustworthy, super kind, very hand-holding, and that's awesome. Like that's who they are, that's their brand, and so we're going to approach his content in that way. There's other companies that they want to be seen as a little bit more, let's say a little bit more flashy, more funny, more, it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish and who you want to attract. And I will say this, that particularly if you're selling, and I really can't think of a product or a service that isn't like this, but if you're trying to compete with thousands of other products out there like yours, or thousands of other marketing agencies, or thousands of other software companies, whatever, like yours, and they all at the end of the day essentially do the same thing, like it's not enough. And I can't even tell you how many times like I'll be on a client call and they'll be like, well, but yeah, our software is better because of this. And like, no, ours is because of this. And it's like, okay, that's cool. But at the end of the day, a lot of the laymen that are using your software, like they're not going to really know those differences. Like maybe some of the, you know, bigger sellers are people that are really invested in Amazon, but especially the new people, like they're just looking for something that's going to help them sell. But I do think that if you position yourself in a way that you sound like everyone else on that market, you're not going to make someone be like, yes, I want to use you, you know. And I hate to say it, but like as much as you may be better, as much as you may have better services or better tools, or, you know, you're different this way, at the end of the day, people do purchase with their emotions. You know, they do. They like, you're going to go with who you like who you can connect with. And so I think it's really important, especially with so much competition out there in whatever you do, that you really be, you know, present yourself as someone that your particular audience that you're trying to attract can relate to.
It's a good point, and we see this all the time when we're looking at listings, or we're talking to sellers who are doing their listings, or looking. They're coming to us obviously because for advertising, and we'll start talking to them, and they'll while we're talking to them talk about, oh, you don't realize how much better this works than such. And like, no, I don't. I can't tell from your listing at all. that is in any way better than the other one.
100%, especially on listing optimizations. Like, it's so funny how many people like get defensive and they're like, well, mine's is better because of X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, okay, but you're not there to sit on or stand on, you know, your platform and talk to someone for 10 minutes about why your product's better. You have like maybe 5 seconds to 10 seconds to actually grab someone's attention and to make them actually want to read it. And then they're only going to browse it really fast. You do not have the time to sit there and argue with someone about why your product's better than the competitors, which means you have to figure out a way to capture that audience, to stand out, to not just explain why you're better, but explain why they should value your company as opposed to all the other ones.
And where's the best place to say that at? Like, I'm saying title and images would be the main points I would look at. Bullet points, you can elaborate a little bit more on emotion and more of the features there. But when you work with the client, where is the easiest like spot to put all that stuff? Like, you know, maybe mine is better. Like, where do I put that at? In an image or title?
Yeah, it's hard with titles because really titles are, you know, there's a difference between being found on Amazon and converting that to a sale. Those are two completely different concepts, right? Mm-hmm. So when you want to be found on a SERP for a keyword, you're focusing on those keywords, right? The title is the most important aspect of your listing because it is the highest valued ranking real estate. So with titles, you know, it's kind of dependent on what you're trying to do. You don't want really long titles. On most mobiles and stuff, it truncates at 80 characters. So doesn't give you a lot of room to really be creative necessarily. And it may not be the place you really want to be creative. I think that your title really should just use your main keyword, like 2 of your main keywords that you're going for or targeting. And then, you know, and like descriptors, like what size it is, color, you know, stuff like that. Is it for women, for men? And so when you're found on the SERP, all you have is your main image, and then you have your title. And that's all anyone has to go by. So they're going to click on it based on your keywords because they're just interested in the keywords, right? But when they get on your listing, that is your opportunity to sell your product. You haven't sold your product until people actually look through your listing. That's your opportunity, right? So, and it's not even just about written content. It's also about your images, right? Like, so part of what I do, I don't personally do graphic design or anything, but one thing I really focus on is the images that people use and trying to, you know, get your story across, get your brand across, get the vibe across, get the features across. And that's not the easiest thing to do in 7 to 9 photos, right? Like, it's not the easiest. But what a lot of people do is they'll use so much content and infographics in each image that you're like kind of going, especially in the supplements, right? Like you're looking at these supplements and it's like paragraphs about like what, each little ingredient does. And by the end of it, like just the images are so diluted from, like the actual images are diluted from all this content. And you've really lost your customer at that point. No one's going to sit at your images and read through all that stuff. I promise you. I promise you. You need to get their attention and get it fast. So check your images. Make sure those infographics are clear. Make sure they not only contain your features, but also contain why they should purchase it. That's why lifestyle images are so important, because again, it's not enough just to explain like what the product is. You need to get their emotion and get them to want to be like, okay, because of this image of a mom kissing her baby, like now I actually want to buy that sippy cup over this other sippy cup where there's no images of babies or moms. It's just images of dimensions of the product. That's not what sells people. It's just not. So images are really important. Bullets are important. Don't make them super long. Just make them quick and to the point and really try to bring out your character. A+ content, I always try to encourage people to do if they have the ability to, because that just gives you more real estate to capture people's emotions. That really is the chance for you to really showcase your brand and really get people to see all the value that they're going to get out of it. Because at the end of the day, people only buy stuff to improve their life or to make it easier. Those are the only reasons. There's no other reason to buy a product. So if you can't explain why that product's going to do one of those two things, then you've lost your audience.
So you're taking that example of like the baby bottle that you were talking about. When you add the lifestyle photos of like the mother with the child, you're hitting the emotion that the reason she's buying this product is because she's a nurturing mother, wants to take care of her child, as opposed to she's buying some plastic bottle.
Right, exactly.
And you're attaching that. So for that baby products company, what would you call that kind of a voice? Like, we are the ones who understand the relationship we have with our children, and we're nourishing, or what does that voice sound like?
I mean, it depends on the company. I mean, here's the tricky thing about stuff like baby products. I've done a million of them. The problem is that all of them aim to be that high-end, luxurious, nurturing, caring, organic, non-BPA, all that stuff. And it's great. It works really well. The problem is everyone is doing that. Every single person is doing that. Right. So, but if you actually talk to moms, like if you really, get a few like cocktails in them over a happy hour and tell me that they're not talking about like, oh man, like my house is a mess and my kid's being an a-hole, like that's just real life. And like, so many people are afraid to do that. And again, you might lose a lot of your audience because some parents might be offended by that. But at the same time, being real, being authentic, being something that someone can really like see themselves, being a part of, seeing yourselves in a brand, let's put it that way, being able to like hold up a mirror and be like, oh my gosh, this brand is exactly who I am. They personify everything that I represent. That's what's going to make your product sell.
So yeah, I'm rethinking.
It's a different mindset, right?
Yeah, it's fun to think about this. And I'm thinking now, because like I said, this is my free consulting call, so we're going to keep going. No, but I think that going forward, that might be a good strategy just for me to really dial that down and focus on that first, really get that framework of what we're going to do. Because then, of course, like you said, everything else falls into place much easier. Like it's much easier to make your website when you already understand your vision and your colors that you're going to be using and your brand name and all that stuff that you're going for and your voice. So yeah, I think that's an interesting approach. I've been a victim of just launching products in the past, and starting new brands, and not maybe focusing enough on that, how that impacts. And I think a lot of times you fear, a lot of us that sell, there's the FOMO. Like, if I just target this segmentation,
Right.
that people that could buy this product, am I missing out on like 75% of my sales? And probably not. You probably got.
I mean, it goes back to old adage that says, if you try to sell to everyone, you're not going to sell to anyone.
Yep.
Like a good example of that is like when you leave the house, right? Like when you go out on a date night, for example, like you're going to want to present yourself in a certain way. So you're going to figure out what that personality is or who you want to portray yourself as, and you're going to cater your clothing to that. You're going to cater your actions to that. Everything that you're doing on the outside is going to represent who you're trying to be, right? If you're going to do that to yourself when you go out, whether you're going to a wedding, whether you're going to bowling, whether you're going to, a strip club, wherever you're going, there's a certain way you present yourself. And that's because you want people to see you as in a certain way. And you should totally think of your brand that way.
That's a good point. Like you're your own brand. I think about the three of us, we have our own, like we're our own brand, like present the way you want to be remembered. Yeah. If you're that funny guy at the party all the time, I guess people are going to remember you. So that's good. That's good stuff.
Just to kind of wrap it up a little bit, what about if somebody who's out there right now that is looking to like revamp or refresh their brand? What's the risk of just like really scrapping the way you've done it before and refocusing and retargeting an existing brand in a new or more consistent voice? I'm sure you're working with people doing that all the time.
I would say most of my, whether they're Amazon sellers or larger companies or whatever, they've already established themselves either in the Amazon space or as a valuable service provider. But they want to kind of reposition themselves in a way that makes them stand out more, that really, and also kind of depends on what I really look at is, okay, so how well are you doing right now? For example, I have one client who sells earphones and goggles, and he never meant for his company to be pretty much largely popular among, or most of his profits come from gun owners, like, people shooting on the range and stuff. And that wasn't anything, he's an engineer and he was thinking more for construction workers and stuff, but his main audience are gun owners. And, when he came to me, he's like, well, like, I kind of want to reposition myself in the community because it wasn't really the, target audience I was going for. And I was just point blank and like, are you trying to make money or are you trying, because sometimes whether you like it or not, there's going to be people that you weren't expecting that really cling to your product, right? And so if you already have momentum in that category or in that niche and you're already doing well, then maybe the real way to focus your persona is to actually not only hone in on that, but really cater to the audience even more than you were before. Because with these headphones, like we talked for a long time, we could go a million different ways with them, right? There's other ways people use them, but is again, us trying to be everything to everyone, the wisest decision? Or do we look at who our real audience is and let the stats speak for themselves? And then we just actually go in and focus everything on that. So that's just something that's a personal choice. And I think you need to really balance out what your goals are and what your current activity is in terms of who's really purchasing your product.
Could you split it off? Like maybe he goes into that hunter gun owner niche and then maybe sort of separate brand into the other?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. That's kind of hard to do if you have a website or, a social media presence. Usually, unless you're completely separating the brands, that's different. But if you're all under one overarching brand or umbrella, then it's kind of hard to split test that, because again, if you're trying, like, for example, one of the things that those noise canceling headphones do is they're great for like autistic people, like really good, because they get over sensory load. And so, but that would be really hard to proposition your company as like for like gun owners and, kids with autism, it's a very delicate thing. So, we'll see what we do with it. There's a lot of things to consider, but again, you really have to do your research. And if you're a new seller, you have to really do your research. And if you're already selling for a while, then you need to look at who's really buying it. And if, 95% of your customers are, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I say stuff all the time I shouldn't say out loud. So, well, like if, for example, stereotypically speaking, if, you're selling products for, gun owners, well, a large percentage of those people are usually like more country. They are more conservative. They are more, just typically speaking. So if you're going to cater to that demographic, you want to make sure that your language, that your images, that your taglines, all that stuff is along the same lines of something that is relatable to them. So, for example, like when working with his brand, we're trying to come up with stuff where we incorporate words like freedom, or your rights, stuff like that, because we know what's valuable to that particular demographic. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think it's great. Like, figure out your demographic and cater to it. Find that voice and make sure you're talking to your audience.
That's such a good point. I mean, I really like that. Just like you're talking about segmenting down to the audience that's buying it. I mean, think about the next gun owner that comes to that listing, and he's looking for headphones for when he shoots guns, and he sees that one tailored specific to him, about the best headphones for freedom-loving gun owners.
Yeah,
it's like he's going to buy that. Yeah, and I think that can dovetail into a whole nother aspect that Chris and I have been talking about recently, is testing your pricing on your products. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you really hit that voice, then you could probably position your product more premium to that customer base. Absolutely. And have it be successful. So there can be a lot of wins there. You can improve your profit margin. You can probably improve your conversion rate amongst your new target audience.
Well, and that's another thing. If we're going to talk about pricing, that's another thing that people misconstrue all the time, is that based on your niche audience, are these people willing to spend a little extra money for something that will protect them, that's quality, that they're going to use a lot? Because for me, I personally am kind of sick of the argument, like you have to compete with the lowest competitor, because you don't. Like, you absolutely do not. In fact, a lot of people, I personally, if I'm looking for something that I really want that I'm like going to use a lot, like the last thing I'm going to do is buy some like really cheap product. It is not about price. It absolutely is not. That might be true if it's something that people will use a few times, that, like if you're competing for, I don't know, like just stuff like Windex, or if you're selling, socks or something like that, like then, yeah, maybe the pricing can be cheap. But if you're selling a product that is quality, that people are willing to spend a little money for, you absolutely do not have to lower your price. What you do have to do is prove yourself to the customer, because if you have a high-priced item and you market yourself as a luxury high-end item, and in reality your product's super cheap or it doesn't last long, then you're going to get bad reviews, tons of returns. You're going to lose your reputation. So if you do have a product that isn't luxury, that is just meant to be something to throw on, that is going to like market yourself as that. You're not doing yourself any good if you do not have a quality product and you're trying to proposition yourself as one. Be honest about what your product is, be real about what it is, and then you will see that your reviews are going to actually adjust accordingly to how you present yourself.
And packaging has a lot to do with this, especially on the high-end price. I recently bought a weighted jump rope, and when I got it, it was like in a custom box. It was painted nice, logo. I opened up the box. It had like steps in there. I mean, how to use a jump rope, whatever. But it had like other products, and like the whole experience of just opening that up, and it was just a simple weighted jump rope.
Yeah.
Like I paid probably a little bit more than I would have liked to, but compare that to something that's just in a cardboard box with no logo, no stamping, no insert, nothing like that. It kind of made me feel good. Like that's what you're trying to do there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Good stuff.
Oh my gosh. I feel like we could talk about this for hours. There's so much that we could dive into. So what we have to do instead is get you back on sometime in the future, and we can dive down. We can go down any of these rabbit holes that we could go through. But yeah, this is a great conversation. I mean, for me, just thinking more holistically about the entire voice, I think is a good starting point to make it. So thanks for joining us, McClain. That was fun.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, next time I'm going to charge you, but I'm more than happy.
Yes. Well, we can usually sneak in the first free consultation.
Yeah, exactly. You do get a free first consultation with me if you decide to, use my services. So.
Well, on that note, let everyone know how they can get in touch with you. We've got it scrolling here at the bottom, yourrightbuzz.com.
Yeah, that's my website. It's still, I'm not gonna lie, most of my business comes from word of mouth or, just reputation. So, you can sign up for a consultation at yourrightbuzz.com. I'm also on Facebook. I'm pretty active there. You can friend me, message me. I also have The Right Buzz is the page name as well. So you can like me on there as well. Yeah. I mean, hit me up.
Yeah. All the links should be in the description. Check all that out.
Yep. Awesome. I encourage everyone listening to do that. Obviously, after listening to this, they're going to want to. So you might have some more consultations coming your way. But anyway, again, thanks so much. That was really fun to dive into that. I know that was very valuable for everyone who's listening. So we really appreciate it. And we appreciate everyone who's listening to this or watching this live stream right now. If you enjoy content like this, if you want to hear more content like this and hear really cool people like McClain talk about really cool topics that can help your business, then make sure you subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on. Also, if you like to be notified when we go live, you can follow us on Solozo's Facebook page, our LinkedIn page, and our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to those, and you can turn on notifications so you get notified when we go live. So I encourage everyone to do that. Also, if you're struggling with your advertising and you would like help automating it and optimizing it, that's what we can do for you here at Solozo. So just go to solozo.com. You can go to the upper right corner and book a demo. You'll get either Chris or myself on that call. We can walk you through the whole platform and just talk about Amazon. We love talking to sellers, so we'll talk about anything. We can look at your listing for you, let you know if maybe you need to go do a consultation with McClain before you turn on ads. So make sure you do that. But again, everyone, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one.